Hi everyone, welcome to your next lesson, and this lesson is on time signatures in music and understanding what they mean, really. So it's important to know that in music there is the beat, right? So, and you might even hear in so many examples in life, when you listen to music at live performances, especially, you might actually hear the trumpet, someone say 1, 2, 3, 4. They're establishing the pulse, but these are the beats in music, and the pulse of the music is very, very important. So we want to know how it's organized. Time signature is very, very helpful to us because it helps us organize music, and it's in the beginning of a piece of music. And I'll give you some examples. But we want to know how many beats are in each measure of music. So remember what we talked about measures. I have two separate lines here. We draw some examples. Everything between a bar line is a measure, right? So we want to know how many beats are in each measure, per measure. And what's also important to know is when we hear the beat, right? What type of note is it? Now you know you've already learned different types of notes. There are many. You've learned a few already, which is wonderful, right? Quarters, halves, and whole notes. So that's to start us off. So they each have different values, right? So don't forget, quarter is 1 count, half is 2, and a whole note is 4. So time signatures are very important in music, and they help us, again, for example, to tell us two things. So the top number means something, and the bottom number means something too. So I'm going to draw it where it should be so you'll see exactly where it's placed in music, but just to give me some space, the top number tells us how many beats or counts are there per measure. And the bottom, which in this case is 4, right, tells us what note gets the beat. And what note gets the beat. So in this time signature example, 3, 4, there are 3 beats per measure, and a quarter note, which is what the 4 stands for, is the note that gets the beat. So it tells us two important things: how many beats per measure and what note gets the beat. So if I were to draw this time signature, put it at the very beginning here, that starts us off. 3, 4. So we know that in each measure there should be 3 beats, and specifically a quarter note is the note that gets the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So each beat is a quarter note, and there are 3 in a measure. Don't forget, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3. Can I put a 4th one in the measure? No. No. Can there only be 2? No. There need to be. There are different combinations, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that, and you'll see in this next measure. But we have to have a total of 3 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. So basically, you know from your math, right? So that's your first measure, 1 and 2 and 3, and that is this okay for the measure? Is this a complete measure? It is, right? Because we still have 3 beats. Because don't forget, the quarter note gets the beat. There's 1, but the half note counts for how many quarters? 2. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. So how you would count this, the half note, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and then the quarters of 3. So if I were to play, now these happen to be A's, right? I would play the first measure. 1, 2, 3, right? I would play the second measure. 1, 2, 3. That's the second measure. Let me do it again for you. So the first measure, 1, 2, 3. Now keeping that pulse going, let's do the second measure. That's the second measure. 1, 2, 3. Because don't forget, a half note is a count of 2, and a quarter is a count of 1. right? So the time signature is a very important piece of information. Let's have another example. In the second line I have here, this is bass clef, right? So let's say that our time signature is 4/4. We also call this common time. This is the most common meter. So 4/4. This means what? 4 beats per measure, because don't forget the top number is how many beats per measure, and the bottom is the note that gets the beat. Well, you already know what the 4 stands for because you had it up here, quarter note. So in a time signature of 4/4, there are 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. So for example, one, 2, and 3, 4, right? You put 5, no, because there are only 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. Now let's in the second example, let's do this, right? Two half notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Is that a complete measure? It also is, right? Because don't forget, each measure in a time signature of 4/4 has to have 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. So are there 4 beats here? Well, half note's 2, because don't forget, the bottom number defines the beat, and that's a quarter note. So there should be the equivalent of 4 quarter notes per measure. Well, there are, right? Don't forget from the last lesson, a half note is 2 quarters. So I promise you, the more practice you get with this, the easier understanding and working through time signatures becomes. But we'll have a quiz, and an extensive quiz, which I hope will help you. Don't be too hard on yourself. You know a lot of, and it's okay to not do well maybe the first time and get it after several tries. It really is. You'll get an opportunity in the quiz to practice this concept of time signatures. But just to wrap it up, they help us organize music. They're present in the beginning of music, and they tell us 2 very important things. They're one number on top of the other. Top number, how many beats per measure? Bottom, what note gets the beat? So, how many of these? Okay, so 3, or in this case 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 per each measure. And every time you hear this pulse clicking, what kind of note is that? So, are these quarters? Right? Are they other types of notes? Which you'll learn, I promise. So please, if you have any questions at all, don't forget, I always mention, but it's very true, I want to be able to help you. Send me an email at my About section at musicinstruction@mail.com. My email's there. I'll be happy to help you through this. Good luck and happy practicing.